Hello everyone and welcome back to CPD Readings. I'm your host as always, CPD. So in today's episode, episode 8, we'll be picking up right where we left off in episode 7 with Kelby and Jared. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. Scrapier? What's a scrapier? Thump thump. When I came back from trading, do you remember the stories I would tell you and your siblings? Thump thump. About the creatures in the seas? How beautiful they were, the colours they had, and how their scales would shine when the sun hit them. Thump thump. Well, they weren't the only creatures I would see. I would also see monsters, real monsters, ones that were bigger than our ship, with teeth as long as my hammer. Thump thump. Monsters that if the mood hit them, could have crushed our ship like you stepping on a bug. Thump thump. My son, monsters don't live in just the nightmares of children. They are real. They live in the sea, the sky, they walk in cities disguised as men, and they live underneath the earth in which we toil. And if we don't know the signs, then they can also live here, I say, giving Jared a small poke in the forehead, a small smile coming to my face. Thump thump. Is that the reason you brought your hammer? Are we going to fight these scrapiers? Jared asks, the excitement palpable in his tone. If I need to, I will. You, on the other hand, I want you to find somewhere to hide and wait until the fighting is over. Thump thump. Sounding disappointed in the answer, Jared asks, so, if we're not here to fight them, what are we doing? And why do you keep hitting the ground like that? Like I said, we're looking for scrapiers, son, and scrapiers are ambush predators. Strong and fast, but luckily, they're cowardly by nature. They hide, and will only attack under 3 conditions. The first, if they think they can quickly kill their prey and take their body away underground. Thump thump. The second, if they're backed into a corner, they'll strike out with their poison stinger. The poison's not strong enough to kill, but it will make wherever it hits go numb and limp for a few hours. Then lastly, and worst of all, if they are hungry enough to not care. There is nothing more dangerous than a wild animal that doesn't care for the outcome. Thump thump. What we're doing now is checking for their tunnels. Their tunnels? Echoed Jared. How can you find Thump Thump? Like I said, if you don't know what you're looking for, they will live in your head, and you'll see them everywhere you go. So there's monsters all around us? Jared asks as he starts looking around as if a scrapier, or worse, would appear out of thin air, his face going slightly pale. I give a quiet chuckle to myself, a small part of me forgetting I was with a boy and not with one of the men on my crew. I quickly try and hide it, hoping that Jared didn't notice. The old kings found that unless provoked, scrapiers would tend to keep to the wildlands and leave us undisturbed. For the most part, all we have to do is make sure they stay on their path back to their lands. Thump thump. So, if they aren't dangerous, then why bother? I mean, why do we need to know how to look for them if they won't bother us? I didn't say that. I said we'd keep them away from the villages to protect our people. Why would we need to do that if they weren't dangerous? So, what do these scrapiers look like? Jared asks, seeming more invested, more focused now that he knew how important the task we were undertaking. They're strange creatures, about the size of a dog. Their skin, it's like the colour of a plum, with the shell that covers its head and most of its body. The shell is hard and rough, like the shell of a conker, and full of thick spikes. They have 6 legs, with thin wisps of hair, and pincers in front of their face, similar to an ant. They use their pincers to dig, and are strong enough to break rock. They have 12 eyes, split into 4 groups of 3, 4 long antennae, 2 that go along the back of the creature, and 2 that stick out about half its body length in front of it. They are horrifying to look at. Thump thump. Seeing that Jared began to look even paler, I tried to take his mind away from what the creatures looked like. Come here, look at the ground. See those raises in the earth just over there? Nodding, Jared replies, yeah, I see them. Well, that's what we're looking for. Scrapiers burrow just beneath the surface, moving small rocks and dirt out of their way, causing the earth to bulge, and they make the bumps in the ground out of the leftover soil and rock, Jared says, looking to me, seeming glad that he was starting to understand. Exactly. Now, Why do I use the hammer? What do you mean? Well, if I was only looking for the tunnels, I could see those bumps and call it a day. Thump thump. So, why the hammer? Well, for protection, obviously. That is one reason, yeah. But it also tells me how old these bumps are. How old? Well, if they're fresh, the mound will fall back into the tunnel and I can use the hammer to collapse their tunnel so they won't come back through. If they're old, the mound won't collapse. The roots will help them to keep it up. Thump thump. And we know we won't have to worry about it. But what happens if we come across a fresh tunnel? Well, we collapse it and tell the closest family and they watch it. If there's movement again, we tell the elders and keep blocking the tunnel until they understand they can't come this way. Why not just kill them? Asked Jared. Thump. Giving an exasperated sigh. Well, we could kill them. It wouldn't be too hard. But what would we be if we mindlessly kill everything that we came across? Jared stands there for a moment, thinking over the question. I guess he won't get it. As the long silence becomes a little awkward, we would be just like mindless animals, and we, son, are the Dundrehead family. We are held to a higher level of intelligence than that of a monster. For years, our family, along with others, keep to the old ways, learning from legend and using that knowledge to protect the clans. So we're not the only family to go on these walks? No, son. Some duties are split from the sexes. For instance, your mother wouldn't go out and pound the earth with this thing, I say, nodding to the hammer, because her knowledge in herb lore is far too valuable. Giving a warm smile, your mother has the greater task, the preservation of life. Our god is Gwentaria, the goddess of life. She provides the sun and rain, all to ensure that crops grow and we have food come time to harvest. But that delicate work needs protectors, which is what I am. And one day, that's what you'll be. I'm ready, Father. Teach me. I want to help, Jared says eagerly. When we get to the end of our journey, we'll climb to the top of Hill Gilbana, and that's where I will teach you how to use this. But, for now, start to accustom yourself to the weight, I say, handing him the hammer. Jared's eyes go wide as his hands reach to take the hammer from my outstretched hand. Taking it, Jared looks at the hammer, almost reverently. He's seen it before. It's not as if the thing were a secret. Whenever I'd go out in these hunts over the years, I'd always bring it with me. But I suppose he's never seen it so up close. As Jared hefts the weight of the hammer in his hands, the wood, he starts. It feels old. Moving to a sitting position, legs crossed, Jared places the hammer's arm along his legs and begins studying it as if it were reading material his mother had given him. I can read most of these runes. You can? I ask, a little surprised. Runes were old. The most common ones, like the runes for protection or luck, could be found on the top of doorways leading to homes. A few others were on weapons, like I had on my warhammer. But most of the runes that were on our family's hammer, I didn't even know what they meant. Only the elders, or an elder's apprentice, those who had dedicated their lives to our ancient ways, were taught all the runes. Yeah, like these ones, Jared says, pointing them out as he read them. This one is for protection, and that one's strength. This one is for long life? He started to read a few more aloud. Power, and I think this one is faith. As he named them, his eyes drifted towards the hammer's head, where the runes were much older, and had started to fade over time. Jared's face contorted slightly, before giving up. Father, what are these? These ones are very old. Some are known as glyphs, or wards. They're different to runes. They're old magics that were woven into the hammer when it was created. The elders say that they're woven in to keep it and the user strong and safe from harm. And then on this side, even I can't tell you what they all mean. Turning the hammer over and pointing with my finger, these are runes of a different nature. They give the holder their charge to protect the clans with honor and dignity. Da, how old is this hammer? I think for a moment. Now that you mention it, I don't really know. The elders would record the names of those who had wielded their family hammers in defense of our people, so that they would never be forgotten. But it's been so many years now, I couldn't tell you how old the hammer really is. There is a legend that says one of our ancestors was such a great warrior that the goddess asked him for his aid. Oh, I know this story, Jared speaks up. It's the story of the great hero, the one that rescued her from the wildlands, right? I smile, glad to know he remembers the story. That's the one, and it's where people get their name, Children of Gwentario. Do you remember what happens after he rescued her? Jared sits there, arms crossed, looking to the corner of his eyes, trying hard to remember. A few seconds go by before he gives up, saying he didn't remember. Well, the story goes that when he died in battle, so great were his deeds that others on the battlefield said they saw the earth move and groan as it opened up to protect his body. As the battle ended, the earth opened again and beings came to take his body away. Take it to where? Jared asks. Well, nobody really knows. Some say he was taken to rest in Gwentariel's halls of Niag Lariv, where he and his loved ones would rest in bountiful fields in pure delight. It's also said that blessing would be given to every worthy member of his family until time ceased, so great was his deeds. The only thing that was left of him was his hammer, which was given to his eldest son, and so the tradition started of family hammers being given to the eldest son. I put my large hand on Jared's shoulder. One day, my son, when my strength is gone, you will take up this duty. You will take this hammer and protect our people. Then, years later, you will take this trip with your eldest son, and when you do, it will be my proudest day. Seeing Jared looking so unsure over the new charge I had accidentally laid on him, I rubbed the top of his head, making a mess of his hair. But don't be so excited. That won't be for several more years, I say, treating him to a laugh. Come on, we best make sure that Kyle has turned the harvesters on. Jared and I continued on our search for scrapiers over the next few days. Every so often, we would find fresh tunnels, collapse them, and let the closest family know about them to keep an eye on the area. As the days turn to weeks, we're forced to use horses on our journey so we can go farther afield. As we come to the end of our hunt, we find ourselves at the home of the Mackle family. Dad, why does this place look familiar? Jared asks. These are the Mackle's lands. We used to come up here all the time. But, Grant, it's been a few years since we came up as a family. They were old friends of the family. The man of the house, Talson Mackle, used to stay with your grandfather many years ago. It was Talson who came to our home to tell your grandmother that her husband had been lost at sea. Dad, does Talson still go out sailing and trading? Nah, not anymore. Talson's an old man now. He lost his sea legs some years back. Now he spends most of his time on his small farm, tending to his horses. And then there's his wife, Darlene. She's always happy to have visitors. Since they didn't have children of their own, they're especially glad when your ma and I came with you lot in tow. Once we get in earshot of the house, I hear the familiar sound of Talson hammering away at something metal. Knowing him, he's making more horseshoes, I say to Jared. Why? Does he have a lot of horses? I laugh. Talson could shoot every horse in Viralkien, and he'd still never stop making horseshoes. No, son. Old man Tal is obsessed with luck. A good few years ago, Talson and your grandfather went to trade with someone from the Tirbonen village. While they were there, some of the locals told Talson that if he hung a horseshoe from his door, it would bring luck to whoever walked in. And so, old man Tal had the great idea that if he had more horseshoes, he would have more luck. Giving a small chuckle, I begin telling Jared a story about a time when Talson had walked out of his home and seen that the nail hanging up one of the 5 horseshoes over his barn had come loose, and that the shoe had turned upside down, and with that, all the luck had fallen out. On seeing it, Talson got his ladder, and for the next few days took down and reforged each shoe that had been close to it, just on the off chance that one of the shoes losing its luck affected the other 4 still hanging. We laugh over the story as we continue walking towards the Mackle's home. Standing only a few feet from the entrance to the home, we see Darlene, as she relentlessly beat some of their carpets that were hanging over a line, creating clouds of dust with each hit. If I was a carpet, I'd fear you more than Duosnos, I shout over to her playfully. Darlene looks in our direction, shielding her aged eyes from the setting sun. After a few short seconds, recognition comes to her face in the form of a smile. She gives us a slow wave as she puts down her swatter and walks towards us, leaning down to Jared. Now remember, they love kids. But I'm not a kid, Jared said defiantly. Hush now. I know you're almost a man, but she will probably still see you as a child, so be kind to them. They mean well. A slightly sullen look comes across Jared's face before he agrees to let Darlene treat him as if he were a child. As Darlene approaches, she could see my family hammer slung across my back and started shouting for Talson. Calm, Darlene. I'm just bringing the boy on his first hunt is all. There was a fresh tunnel about an hour's walk from here, and we wanted to check in on you is all. No need to panic the old man, I say, trying to reassure her. Oh, good gods, I thought you were Kel. But the young man I know doesn't have bits of grey showing in his beard. So who are you? She asks, jokingly. Oh, is that how it's going to be? I think to myself. And we were looking for Darlene, the woman that used to live here, but you're far too young to be her. Ah, you must be Kel. He's always been a charmer. Getting off my horse, arms outstretched, I embrace the older woman. Of course it's me. And look who I brought with me, I say, pointing to Jared, who was trying his best to not look awkward as he climbed off the too big horse. No, it can't be. Is that little Jared? Darlene asks as she gives him a hug as well. Oh, feck it, you frightened me half to death, seeing two men coming over the hill, that bloody hammer of yours slung across your back as if you're a hooligan spoiling for a fight. I didn't know what to think. But you waved to us, Jared asked. Well, of course I waved. But do you think these old eyes could see who it was? Bah! Sure, it wasn't till your father spoke I knew it was him, she said, placing a soft hand on my upper arm and giving it a small squeeze. But, instead of friend, I think I should call him liar, she said, a hint of good humour in her voice, leaving a small grin across my face over the barb. Liar? Jared asked in a confused tone, obviously not picking up on Darlene's joke. Well, yes. My eyes might be going, but I'm sure that he would have me believe that you are young Jared. But I don't see the young boy here. All I see is two wild men coming to my door, she said with a chuckle. Jared struggled to hide the smile that kept threatening to take over his face. Oh yes, two wild men indeed. In any case, you're probably starved. Come on, I've bread and stew cooking. Get yourselves in and warm your bones. I'll tell Tal and let him know we've company. I leave my hammer at the entrance to their home. Before I go inside, I raise my hand, touching one of the horseshoes that hang over the door. Go on, grab a seat wherever. I'll be back with food in a minute. Anyone for a cuppa? Ah, cuppa sounds lovely, Darlene, I shout back to her as she disappears into the kitchen. Looking over to Jared. Go on, go give her a hand. A few minutes later, they come from the kitchen, Jared carrying the teapot as Darlene drapes behind him with the cups. Right, well, wait here and serve yourselves. I'll get Tal and be right back. We weren't waiting long, as Talson, slightly bent, came in through the door. He was holding a mostly black cloth in hand, as he rubbed dirt and soot from his fingers. I always knew he was slightly older than Darlene, but he looked positively ancient today. He was wearing dark overalls and a simple top under that, with not a sign of hair on his head. I could still see signs of old scars along his head, that were partially covered by black streaks from where he had wiped away sweat with his cloth. I stand to greet Talson. Well, old man, I'm surprised you haven't tripped over yourself, I say, jokingly nodding to his beard. What? Talson half shouted. You know I'm almost deaf, you little shite. Would you speak up? Darlene, giving Talson a warning smack on the arm. What's your language? She shouted at him. Ah, yes, sorry dear, sorry. A warm smile coming to my face. Glad to have such strange yet simple people in my life. Using my hands, I mind a long beard. Still growing the beard, I see, I say a little louder than I had before. Talson had a massively overgrown beard that was mostly grey, with some spots of black from the forge, and discoloration around the mouth due to his love of smoking. Understanding me now? Oh, the beard? Well, of course I still have it. I need something to keep me old bones warm, he says, giving it a mocking hug, laughing all the while. I don't know how, but I always forget how crazy you are, old man, I say, letting out a chuckle. What do you say? Moans Talson. I said it's looking good. Turning, he seemed to notice Jared for the first time. And who'd you bring with you? The old man barked out. You know Jared, lovey. He's been here before, Darlene said, as if to remind him. Jared. Of course I know Jared. Little runt of a boy. Always off playing with the other two wee ones. But this can't be him. Go on there now. Speak up, would you? Who are you? And what are you doing in my house? I am Jared, he replied sheepishly, seeming to lose the confidence he felt earlier under the old man's barbed tongue. What do you say your name was? Talton half shouted to him. Jared, I'm Kelby's eldest son, he shouted back. Ah, feckin' hell, I'm deaf, not dead. No need to shout, he said, turning to Darlene and giving her a wicked smile. Come now, you know who he is. Stop torturing the young man. Now, all of you, wash up and come get some food. And then, Kelby, you can tell us why you've come all the way out here. As we eat, I tell them about our hunt so far. The Mackles' home was on the furthest edge of Crete, and as such, they would be the last home we would visit on our hunt. I begin by telling them about the few tunnels we found. Most seemed like they hadn't been used, but that we had found ones close enough to their home. At the news, Talson grew more serious. And did you find anything? Talson's demeanour having completely changed from the old crazed man that greeted us. I shake my head. Well, that's good and bad, I suppose, the old man replied, puffing away at his pipe. What do you mean? Jared asks. Well, I'd love to hear that you squished the thing that be making tunnels towards me home. Then I won't have to saddle up a horse and go riding out looking for the blasted things. But Dad said we wouldn't kill them. Well, unless you didn't have a choice, Jared said in a confused tone. He said they'd only fight us if they want to eat you, Talson said, cutting him off. Talson, then looking to me, you filling this boy's head with horse shite. I hadn't forgotten that Talson, like me, would have gone out into the oceans and traded by ship. That, like me, he would have fought razorbacks and seen friends die by their hands. We only kill the things that threaten our life. We don't go out looking for violence, I retort, with as much calm as Talson had crass. Talson puckered his lips and blew, making an obscene farting noise. That's what I think of that, Cal. Listen to me, boy. Do us old folks a favour, Talson started, looking to Jared. If you see monsters out there, kill 'em. 'Cause if you don't, they're only going to go ahead and kill things that can't protect themselves. And looking back to me, making sure he drove the point home. Things that are too old and too frail. Things that don't have the strength to lift their own hammers anymore. We finish the rest of the meal in silence. I leave first and saddle one of Talson's horses. We ride out to where we found the tunnel, Talson looking around nervously all the while, trying to spot any tunnels that we might have missed. As we reach the collapsed tunnel made by a scarpier, Talson gives a high-pitched whistle. That be a scarpier tunnel, all right. How fresh do you think it was? Couldn't have been older than a few weeks. You sure you haven't seen anything? Your horses haven't been acting a little wild lately? No small animals disappearing? Anything like that? Small animals? You think that I'm some sort of forest druid? That I spend my days looking after forest critters? You really are a cracked lad, aren't you? As we part ways, we thank Talson for the meal and wish him luck on getting back home. Ah, luck. Can't have enough of that, he wheezed, half laughing, half coughing. And good luck to yourselves. Oh, and Big Jared, look after your soft-hearted father. And remember what I told you, he said, as he began grinding his knuckle into his other palm. Squish him, he finished, as he rode off back to his home. Yeah, folks, that is the end of today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, in our next episode, we'll be heading back to the Black Shepherds as they start scouting around the town of Rackshaw. I hope to see you there, and until then, be seeing you.